There's a couple of different kinds of collectors out there. There's a very focused collector who is very interested in one specific thing. Maybe it's a video game system or a comic book series or something like that, and they collect everything they can find related to that because of their particular attachment to that one thing or one style of thing. And then the other type of collector is often someone who collects more on a speculative type of, I don't know what the word is, but anyway, that kind of collector is looking for items that are going to go up in value, not necessarily because they want to resell them and make a profit, but quite often they do. And the idea or the thrill of collecting for them is that idea of beating the system, if you will. The idea of finding something super cheap that slipped through the cracks, perhaps, that was priced below value, or, being the smart guy on the block and speculating on what's going to become popular down the road, the things that are totally off of people's radar. And that's a little bit about what I want to talk about today, because I fall into that second category. Not that I am really a reseller, although I do sell things eventually if I lose interest in them, but I collect a broad variety of things, as you can see behind me. I collect a few different statues and figures, I collect comic books, I collect video games, I collect VHS, I collect DVDs, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why. The idea of collecting just about anything because it's collectible, it can get out of control if you're not careful. I actually just this week packed up 15 good-sized boxes out of my studio here and out of the shelves in my bedroom and put them in storage because I just have too much crap. Good problem to have, I guess, but it actually gets overwhelming when you collect a little bit of everything. So recently, I have been collecting DVD TV series for a couple of reasons. One, I have a 27-inch tube TV just off screen here and a DVD player, and I actually enjoy the experience of putting a disc in the machine and watching a TV show. Of course, I've got a great computer here. I can download whatever I want. Arr, matey, of course, but it's not the same. There's something about the experience of a tube TV, watching these shows in the way they were originally intended, in the 4:3 aspect ratio and all that sort of thing. So it's become kind of a hipster niche sort of a thing for me. But the reason why I'm really investing in DVDs right now is the same reason why I really invested in VHS 5 years ago, because it's an emerging market. And if you want to be a collector in general and accumulate things cheap that you could potentially sell later for considerably more money, you need to be forward thinking in terms of what things are going to become popular later and why. So with VHS, for example, I knew 5 or 6 years ago that VHS was going to explode on the market as a collectible. And here we are now in 2023 with VHS tapes being graded by companies similar to WATA or CGC, grading sealed VHS, which that's a whole other market that I am not involved in at all. I don't really believe in the whole grading and graded market thing. But I do believe in collecting these items that are going to become nostalgic for people later. I don't know if I can show you off camera here without wiggling too much. Give me a second here. So I've got quite a few VHS box sets here. You can see I have, some Indiana Jones tapes, some Planet of the Apes stuff, all kinds of 007 tapes, Alien, Rocky, Star Wars, all kinds of box sets and things that I know down the road people are going to become nostalgic for. People are going to say, man, I remember when I was a kid we had this awesome box set of Back to the Future. It had all 3 movies and it had a documentary, and I wish I could find that again, and I wish I could put that on my shelf today because it was a part of my childhood. And that's exactly the way people collect everything. This is what happens 20 years or so down the road from when something was popular the first time, it gets popular again. Now, the same thing is starting to happen. Well, it hasn't happened yet with DVDs. DVDs are completely in the garbage. They are cheap as hell. Nobody wants DVDs. They've been dumping them for years now as they move to streaming services like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus, etc. However, just this year, I have been seeing a groundswell of sentiment here that people are getting sick of streaming services. Why? There are too many streaming services, for one thing. They are getting more expensive. It's coming to the place where having access to everything you want to watch is now going to cost you as much or more than a premium cable or satellite subscription package. It's getting to the point where you're spending $60 to $80 to $100 a month on 10 different streaming services, HBO Max and Paramount Plus, and it's just getting out of control. And, people are getting sick of shows being canceled on one service and picked up on another. So it's like you have your Netflix subscription, but all of a sudden all the Star Trek shows are gone. They're over there on Paramount Plus now, and Doctor Who's not here anymore. Now it's on Disney Plus, and it's just people are getting sick of this crap, and they want to own a copy of their favorite show. Maybe not every show, but their favorite show, because everybody's got one of those shows that they want to play over and over and over again. For me, it's something like Star Trek Deep Space Nine or Stargate SG-1, for example, that I just love to watch these shows over and over again. I'll marathon an entire series once every year or two and go back to it again. A lot of 90s sitcoms that I love, for example, like Home Improvement, Frasier, Seinfeld. I go back to these shows regularly, and I don't want to have to chase them all over the internet because they pop up here and then they're canceled and then they go there. So now I have a collection of these, shows that are absolutely mine, and I didn't have to pay $40 a season or $20 or $30 a season like you used to have to when DVDs were popular. I'm picking these up for $2, $3, $5 a season right now because they are in the toilet as far as value, and that's where VHS were 5 years ago. How do you stay on top of what becomes collectible so that you can get in at that prime time? Well, as you observe these markets, I'm looking right now, I am actually going to be making a video in a few days about the PlayStation 3 in 2023, because collecting for the PlayStation 3 is kind of in a sweet spot right now too. People have been saying this for a couple of years, since all the conversation about shutting down the PlayStation Store, that now is the time. They were right. 2 years ago was the time. But it is still the time to collect for PS3 right now, and I am starting a brand new PS3 collection this year that I just started a couple of months ago, and I'm going to be making a video about starting to collect for the PS3, because although it is on the rise, it is still pretty darn low as far as video game markets go. Tons and tons of games in the library can be bought for $10 to $30, which I think is pretty darn cheap for something as amazing as the PS3 library. Of course, there are expensive games like Folklore and Puppeteer and some, obscure King of Fighters games and some obscure anime games and things like that are going to demand $60, $80, $100 and even a little bit more. But those games are the minority. Most of the library is still pretty darn cheap. So you got to look at collecting if you are looking to potentially broaden your horizons in collecting and start to pick up things. You need to start looking forward into the future and determine what is going to be popular and expensive and in demand 2, 3, 5 years from now. Because if you can look into the future 2 to 5 years and then start collecting for that now, you're going to be the one that's on top. You're going to be the one that's sitting on a bunch of inventory, when the time comes that you want to start selling some of that stuff to make more money for your hobby. I am not a reseller. I do not have an eBay account. Well, I have an eBay account, but I don't have a seller account. I've never sold anything on eBay. I do occasionally trade things into video game stores. Something I have done to support my hobby for a long time is pick up games when I'm thrifting that have a value. Something that's worth $20 that I found at a pawn shop or a thrift shop for $5 or something. I will trade those in every so often just as trade bait at a store to get some store credit to get the games I really want. I do sell some things from time to time, but it really interests me to try and predict the market and figure out where things are going. So right now, VHS is on the rise. The sweet spot for VHS where I was literally 5 years ago, I would go onto my local Facebook marketplace and put up an ad, and people would give me boxes of VHS. Just please take them. I don't know what to do with these. I don't know if I'm supposed to recycle them or whatever. You want them? Take them. Here's 200 VHS tapes, my entire collection, my father's collection, my grandfather's collection. Here's just tons of tapes. Just take them off my hands. Now you're starting to have to pay a few bucks. I mean, yeah, you can get videotapes at thrift stores still for $1 or $2, but if you go online to eBay or even some of these VHS collecting groups now, you're seeing that tapes are routinely selling for $5 a tape instead of $2 a tape. And you're seeing the collectible and the valuable tapes starting to establish a value more in the $20 to $50 a tape for some of those horror tapes and things that are actually rare. But if you get in on the ground floor when something is literally being blown out, I wish that I had picked up 5 PS Vita TV consoles when they were being blown out for like $20 at GameStop. That was a major fail on my part, because if I had 5 of those right now, I could have paid that off and still had, with 4 of them, and still had one of my own, instead of now considering paying $200 plus for one PS Vita TV. So anyways, guys, I hope this helps you out a little bit. You need to think, what is going to happen 5 years down the road with these things. When you see something that maybe you're not all that interested in right now, but it's cheap as hell, do you pick that thing up and sit on it for 5 years? Actually speculating on individual items, that's a little more risky. But when you get into something that costs $1 and you can pick up a few hundred of those items that cost $1 and sit on them for 5 years and sell them for $5, maybe, if that's what you want to do, you can actually really boost your collection of what you want to collect. So for me, I really like to collect these Disney hardcover comic books, and these cost about $30 a piece. So if I can buy a whole bunch of VHS tapes, sit on them for a few years, and sell them and make a few $100s out of that transaction, that's several more of these that I can afford. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you in the next video. Stay classy.